Hey guys, welcome to Project Metal Music, Project Metal Music's YouTube channel with your host El Young, and we are here with David from the band, the Red Lite District. So welcome, David.
Thank you, El. Happy to be here. Glad to be here. Yeah, up for some good chat, even at this time of night.
Yeah, yeah. So David, uh, could you introduce yourself and what you do within the band?
Yeah, so I'm the singer and rhythm guitarist in the band, the Red Lite District, as you've said, obviously. It's a punk band to some extent. So basically, when I say rhythm guitarist, I mean some basic stuff, you know. It's the easiest kind of music to play, I guess, punk music, which is lucky for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's dive into some questions. What as a kid, what were you listening to?
When I was really young, when I'm like probably about 10, I say really young, 10 is probably quite young to start listening to music, I guess. But REM, believe it or not. Now, I don't know if that's a good answer or a bad answer, but I really liked REM. So that was probably about 92 when they were obviously quite big. But it kind of got you into a different wee world listening to bands like REM at that age. So you start to go into kind of, I guess some American alternative rock, and then moving from there into kind of grungier stuff. So I kind of pathed through that towards pretty much punk music, bands like Bad Religion and you kind of know FX and Dead Kennedys, So it moved from that alternative American rock to grunge into kind of punk, which was pretty much, I've stayed there for about 20 years or so now, 25 years.
Cool, cool. So who actually got you into sort of like listening to REM or to NoFX and stuff like that? Was it a
Uh,
family member?
Actually, I don't. It's a good question. I think I'd heard REM on a TV show. I think it was a song "Pretty Persuasion." You remember the old Grey Whistle test? So there was a version of that was replayed one night on BBC Two, and it was REM playing "Pretty Persuasion," and I just basically get into that from there, and I guess just started finding other bits and pieces when I went to the record shops. You used to go into places like Woolworths and all that sort of stuff, and you used to find the odd CD, and it would pretty much I would see bands from there.
Yeah. So that basically introduced you into listening to music from that
Yeah.
old Grey Whistle test. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. When it was, you're talking, like, I guess, grunge era and kind of moving into that mid-90s. So it's probably easy to find bands like Nirvana and bands like that, and then kind of finding other bands because it was quite popular and so big at that point in time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you sort of like moving on to like into sort of like becoming a musician. Who actually inspired you to say pick up a guitar or start singing?
Um, Probably to start singing. I quite liked. I don't know how, but I eventually got into the Doors, the band The Doors, and Jim Morrison was just so cool. And you thought, right, I'll kind of try some of that. Obviously, couldn't quite sing like Jim Morrison, but he gave it a shot. But starting to kind of, mixing, I guess, folk who you really liked as singers with some of the kind of frontmen that played rhythm guitar in bands. I just started watching them and thinking that looks pretty good. And again, because it's punk music, you're kind of looking at it and thinking, I could do that if it was something like a bit more complex or whatever it might be. Metallica, Megadeth, whatever it might. I suspect you've got people who listen to this show who are really into guitar music and solos and metal music, and it's obviously a bit more complex than punk. But watching punk frontmen with just guitars, it just looked so chaotic and so good. So you just pick that up and go for it.
Yeah. We've got a question from the head mod. She asks, "What is your favourite song to play?"
It's my favourite song to play.
Yeah.
Probably "God Save the Queen" by the Sex Pistols, because it's easy and it's got a lot of attitude. I like to be able to play without thinking too much. I like to be able to play and just you almost get into the feel rather than concentrating.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a good, yeah, it's a good song. It's relatively simple, and you just go for it.
Yeah, and you can
Yeah,
sing it. You can just bash away on the guitar as loud as you like, and it's just you don't need to put too much mental capacity into it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for that, Lisa. So, um, moving on to going on to the next question. Were you in any other bands prior to the Red Light District?
Yeah. I was in a band called the Dead Agenda, which was probably it was a wee. I guess it was a kind of it was a rock band. It wasn't quite metal. It wasn't quite punk. We had a friend of mine, great guitar player, very into metal music. He was the guitarist for us, and we had a lot more solos, etc. And that really phenomenal guitar player, but kind of just ran its course. And before that, I was probably in my first band, which was just a high school kind of band where you're just knocking stuff together with your friends rather than it being anything serious. But the Red Light District, I've been in the Red Light District now since 2016, really. So it's pretty much been past 8 years, 9 years or so.
Yeah. What has the band been up to, especially over the last couple of years?
Yeah, we've been recording, but we write quite a lot. We tend to consistently write every rehearsal session. We end up coming up with something, so we end up with a lot of material. So we tend to actually focus quite heavily on recording. So we've recorded a few EPs. We've played obviously a number of gigs as well, but we've tended to focus on the recording process over the last 2 years rather than the kind of live gigging. We're starting to get back into that a wee bit, and that's probably been the catalyst has been a recent change in drummer. Our old drummer Derek, great guy, great drummer. He wanted to just to take a bit of a back seat, so we got a new drummer in, phenomenal drummer. So we've started kind of playing live more because he likes playing live. It's he was a professional musician actually, in Belarus where he came from, so he's much into playing live. So we're getting back into the kind of circuit.
Cool, cool. We've got a question from Sebastian. Um, who writes the songs for the band?
Probably I go with a primary kind of melody. I'll go with a melody with some lyrics, with a concept, and just show the rest of the guys it, and we all chip in. So, what I bring can change fairly dramatically, or it can be, almost the same as eventually as it was when I brought it in. But basically, everybody has a creative input. It doesn't tend to be a dictatorship or anything like that. It's usually, we all chip in because actually we've got a couple of great musicians in the band, and they add a lot of good stuff. Barry, the bass player, excellent. He doesn't play with a pick, which is unusual for a punk band or any rock band, but he's got great melodies. And as I said, drummer's brilliant, and Graham, our guitarist, he loves simplicity, so he kind of hones stuff down when we get a bit too complicated at times.
Cool, cool. We've got another question from Lisa Boo. Do you have a favourite venue to play at?
So because we're Scottish, we tend to obviously most of our gigs are up here, and so I don't know if folk will know my answer to this is a place called Ivory Blacks, which actually played a couple of weeks ago. It's a fairly small venue in Glasgow, a couple of hundred, but usually you find that it's kind of small touring bands that play it, but it's just got a great setup, dead relaxed. The guy that's the promoter's the owner, and it's just a great relaxed atmosphere, and it's got a brilliant sound system as well. So Ivory Blacks in Glasgow, if anybody's ever up here, that's a good venue to go.
Cool. Cool. So you've mentioned you've been primarily recording
Yeah.
in the studio. Is there any plans on doing any sort of putting out sort of an EP or an album?
Yeah. So we had an EP just come out Friday last week. So we recorded that in November 2023, but it's just came out last week fully. But we're already booked in to do another one November again. So we'll be recording in 5 months' time or so. So we've just started writing the songs. I think we've got about 20 songs. So we're just whittling them down to 5 songs or so, which is a process in itself because everybody's got their different views about what's the best song, what's not so good. So getting to a point of our top 5 songs will be the process in the next couple of months. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Cool. Got another question from Carbonite Stardust. She asks, is David the lead vocals?
Yes, I am. Unfortunately, lead vocals, but I say unfortunately because my singing's a bit rough. But we've got a couple of guys who are great at harmonies who help me significantly, I have to say.
Cool, cool. Yeah, my pleasure. Carbonite says learning new music from across the pond. So she's
Right.
in America. So yeah. Yeah,
Hopefully,
so
hopefully she can understand my accent.
yeah, yeah. So is there any? Are you? Could you tell us? Could you tell us about the new EP?
Yep. So the new EP is called Static Silence. It's pretty much you can see it in Spotify, listen to it in Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, everywhere digitally. There's a record company called Soda Records, who help us promote. They basically put out the EP, distributed it. So it's got 5 tracks. There's the first track that we released is called Outside. It's kind of a grunge number. It's a simple riff, solid grunge number that you would hear in the early 90s, because that's the kind of music I like. We've got a few kind of faster punk tracks on it as well, but we've also got a couple of slower songs, which is again unusual for us. I think the last song in it is called Walk On. It's quite psychedelic. And quite people like it, and some people like it, some people don't like it because it's not the type of music we would normally play. But if you listen to it all the way through because it gets a bit weird at the end.
Yeah. Is there any new singles? Is there singles coming off that EP, or is that just the EP just come out?
So there was 2 singles prior to it coming out. There was the song Outside, and there's a song called Turning the Screw. But there's with the release on Friday, we're promoting the song False Alarm as a single, which is getting played on a few radio shows just now. But that's probably the most punky type song on it. Quite energetic, really kind of fast paced. It's got a good British 70s punk sound, I would say, garage punk to some extent.
Cool, cool. So, are you sort of like in the process of writing new material?
Yes, yep. So we're constantly writing, and we were in rehearsals on Tuesday, and actually we're kicking a song around on Tuesday. So we just basically, as I said earlier, I'll take a song and we'll just work in the bones of it and then beef it out a bit. So yeah, we've just started as a wider group doing that in Tuesday there. So we'll end up with 5 in November. And we'll record them late November, and we'll probably release them over the course of early 2025. But there's 8 EPs on Spotify and Amazon right now as well, going back to 2016. So there's quite a lot of music out there already by us, but we'll continue adding to that.
Cool, cool. So, are you sort of like planning on doing any sort of like live shows in and around Scotland?
Yes. So we're playing in September again. So we just played the other week, Saturday night, a couple of weeks ago. Playing in September. We're also then playing in December in Edinburgh. So Glasgow, September, Edinburgh, December. We're hoping to actually come down, kind of Newcastle, Sunderland way. We're planning to try and get to the kind of Northern English towns as well. Even places like Blackpool. We're kind of get in touch with a few people in those places to try and get some gigs, because it's one thing playing Scotland, but we want to go, you want to go to England and have a few shows. I think we're talking to somebody in Bristol as well, actually, so much further down. So we'll hopefully be playing a number of shows over the UK in the next kind of 6 months or so.
Cool, cool. Yeah, it'll be cool to actually come for you to come down to actually to either Sunderland or Newcastle, because I would
Yeah.
love to see you.
Yeah,
Yes,
apparently there's a lot. I don't know how. There's a lot of gigs, a lot of punk gigs in Gateshead. There's a couple of venues in Gateshead and places like that. I appreciate that may not necessarily be, but it's. I play. So we've got our ears to the ground and try to get talking to as many promoters as we can.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a good few venues in Gateshead and Newcastle. Uh,
Mhm.
like such as Trillions in Newcastle and the Black Bull in Gateshead.
Yeah, Black Bull gets a lot of punk gigs through it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I've been there a good few times watching punk bands over the last 2 years, 2 years or
brilliant.
so.
That's cool.
So yeah, yeah. So um, I know, say for instance, money no object, all the stars aligned, everything's lined up. Would you go? Go like international, like over to Europe or down to South Africa or over to the US if everything was aligned?
Probably. I think there's playing live is. I like the creation of new stuff primarily in the studio. Playing live is good, but only under certain circumstances. But yeah, there's. I mean, America would be great to go to, and there's so many great places here. Europe, loads of great places as well. I've never thought about going beyond, I guess, Europe and America, but there's up for going anywhere if kind of money and planning and all that sort of stuff was kind of not an issue. Organising these things, I mean, when I was younger, I organised a tour of England, and it was an absolute nightmare to organise. It was so difficult. But if you've got help and you've got money behind you, absolutely, definitely.
Cool, cool. So I know there's a couple of people in the chat there who will basically sort of like crucify me if I don't ask this question. Have you ever thought about putting the EPs onto vinyl?
Yes. We've kind of there's always this people, so you get different feedback. You get people saying that they listen to music, they just stream it and they're not interested in buying it. You get people who are absolutely always wanting vinyl. So it's interesting to ask the question. Only last week did we start looking at vinyl for the new EP. So and it's always how much do you press and how much money do you put in, because there's always the risk that you don't sell it. But no, we're looking at it right now to see, just checking out costs and how much money it's got to cost us and how long it will take, etc., etc. So I'd love to do that. It's just how much money you invest into that.
Yeah, I know there's been a massive resurgence in vinyl, especially over the last 5-6 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, but unfortunately at the minute, it's, from what I've been hearing, it's still expensive to actually for people to actually get stuff pressed into vinyl.
Yeah. I think the last quote I had was about, I think it was about £1,000 for 50. It was quite. I can't remember, but it was a surprising number.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like I know this. I grew up on vinyl. I've got like, I wouldn't say a sizable collection, but to me, it's like vinyl's got that warm, fuzzy sound, sort of like vibe
Yeah.
to it. Plus, you can actually like hold it in your hand, like the slate cover anywhere.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can actually hold it in your hands. It's that physical sort of like entity
Yeah.
type of thing.
And I agree. I used to always love getting, physical music, and you would read the liner notes and you would read the lyrics and you would every wee detail. You were always kind of getting right into that sort of stuff. Even tapes are making a comeback now. I see a lot of tape cassettes. Bands selling tape cassettes now. So there is a kind of reason and a purpose there to I guess to invest into some of that.
Yeah. it's well, it's ever since like the 80s with the tapes, like when you do like a sort of like mixed tape
Hmm.
uh, type thing, and it's like it's sort of like the term's been sort of like carried on, if you know what I mean. Even
Yeah,
though the physical media has been sort of like been obsolete for a good number of years now,
yeah,
but it's starting to come as a resurgence now.
yeah, yeah. And it's probably, I mean, I suspect it's cheap to produce tape, but the quality you get in vinyl, like you said earlier, the kind of warm fuzzy sound, you just get that. It is a much better quality. And actually, I think people skip songs too often on when you're streaming. You can skip dead easily. And I think you miss the I guess the continuity of an album too often, and there's something to be said about that. The context in which the songs are placed against each other is probably a lost art to some extent in some cases. So there is just sitting with some on that you physically have to get up to and move or turn to change a song is probably a good thing because it makes you listen to the full thing from beginning to end, and you might actually fall in love with songs that you would otherwise skip because some great songs take a while to actually, for you to get into them.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now, Sebastian mentioned something here. Now, I haven't really talked about yet. Um, any chance? He says he asks any chance of a 8-track tape.
An 8-track tape.
Yeah.
Possibly, probably.
Yeah, I know there's some die-hard fans out there of the eight tracks,
Yeah,
who still actually use the 8-track
yeah,
system.
yeah. Aye, I think I've got one, a Tascam, somewhere up in my loft. It's quite, it puts you under pressure to record. To tape and stuff like that because when you get it wrong, you're starting again. You get it wrong, you're starting again, and it can go on and on and on. Digital's quite a cheat. You just get something wrong and you get cut in, and that's it. So you need to learn and concentrate. And actually, some of the mistakes are probably worth keeping because when you listen to some music, there's wee nuanced mistakes in there that they've either thought, let's just keep that, or actually it's added something to the song. And I think you kind of almost bleach stuff too much in digital recording studios.
Yeah, it's when I've seen some documentaries about how the recording process of some of the probably like the biggest albums ever produced, such as like say Fleetwood Mac's Rumours.
Yeah,
They were like they literally got to go, stop the tape, put it back, add another pair, sort of like say Stevie Nicks vocals, then you got to cut in with um, John McPhee's bass line or Mick Fleetwood's drums on the track and
yeah,
everything. It's just like you got to constantly stop and start, rewind
yeah.
it, and it's like if something gets wrong, it's like it's a day's work they're gone
I
type of
know,
thing.
I know. Really, some of the stories here are amazing. Like I'm a big fan of the Beatles, and the engineering in some of their records is phenomenal. The people, the staff they had in hand to work through some of those records is just unbelievable, and obviously all on tape. It's just phenomenal. So, yep,
Yes, recently, I don't know if you heard, but Wet the Workshop has who did the sound for Lord of the Rings
right.
movies. They lifted John Lennon's voice from
Oh,
like
yeah,
sort of like a demo, yeah, like a sort of like I don't know how what he recorded it on, but he
yeah,
lifted the and got Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr to actually lay down like the guitars and the drums
yeah, yeah. No, it's
for
fun. I mean, I think John Lennon used to record onto a tape recorder from his piano, and there was something about that. There was noise in the background that historically they could never get rid of, and I think AI helped him or something like that, get rid of that sound, clear out his voice. Because I've also got George Harrison on that, and I think some of the George Harrison stuff is from tape from the early 90s when they got back together and did the anthology. So they've actually merged quite a few things there, but it sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently it went straight to #1, I believe.
Yeah.
In the UK, from what I've heard. So yeah, it's like the sort of like the analog versus digital. It's sort of like, yeah, I can understand where you come from with like, yeah, digital is sort of like a cheat in some way, in a lot of ways.
The guy that produces us, he's a guy called Andy Miller, and he's an engineer. He's engineered a number of albums by like bands like Mogwai, kind of Scottish band. But he said anybody who tells you that tape's better, and this is coming from him, he says anybody who tells you tape's better has never had to stand there and cut tape apart over and over again at midnight for weeks on end, where the bands are all gone home and you're standing there left holding the baby. But that's because he's obviously better.
Yeah, true that. Yes, like tape can be a nightmare, especially if you put it in the wrong place and you're thinking, why is it a bit of a skip there type of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
that was a long answer.
Sorry?
That was a long answer, that wasn't it, to the question?
Yeah, it's a bit of a. I know we went on a bit of a tangent as well. So but yeah. So right. Have you that's the thing. I'm just a bit thrown off with the question there, but is there any sort of like merch that people can buy?
We don't have any in stock just now. We did, and we got frankly we got our bag stole at a gig with loads of t-shirts, and somebody's got a lot of Red Lite District t-shirts basically. So we need to get more printed, and we need to get it up online. We used to just sell it physically. We never actually promoted it online. In the merch, we just used to take it to the gigs and sell it there to avoid posting and all that sort of stuff. But as I said, we got stuff nicked, and I'd love to fit because I didn't even get one of the t-shirts. We paid for all these t-shirts. I don't even have one, but somebody's got a whole backpack full of stuff, which is annoying. But we'll get more, and we'll be getting it online soon. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you did that, where can people buy it? Would it be on like sort of like Bandcamp or a website or through Facebook?
Well, we're going to do Bandcamp. Yep. It seems simpler, Bandcamp.
Yeah. I know there's been like there's a lot of bands on there who do sort of like go through Bandcamp to sell like sort of like physical media or physical like merchandise such as like t-shirts.
Yeah.
So,
you get a good deal as when you're the artist or the seller on Bandcamp. It is good. You do get more of the money rather than obviously just streaming on Spotify. I don't even know what you get, but it must be pennies.
Yeah. But apparently from it's like 0.0001 of a pence per stream or something like that.
It's insane.
Yeah. So plus like what I've heard is like Bandcamp's a lot better with like the with the payout and everything.
Yeah, as definitely.
So just go over to get the right. Oh, wrong one. Right. So this is probably going to be my last question. So guys, if you want, if you can, we're going to be starting wrapping things up in a bit. So get your questions in. So my last question is, any advice for people who want to become a musician?
The advice would probably be don't pursue fame. Just play music. If you're playing something that you love, do it. And do it for that reason. Don't do it to try and make money or be famous, because actually it's certainly not worth it. And you basically you just sell your soul out in terms of what you're making. You'll write bad songs because you're trying to write the songs that people think you should write. So you just do what you think is right. And if it doesn't sell in, fine. You're the artist. You're the person creating it. And don't be upset by that, because too many folk get upset if they don't have thousands of streams or whatever, or hundreds of thousands of streams even. Just play the music that you want to play. That's fundamental, and be confident about it. Don't be shy about that. There's no shame. Just play what you. I mean, see, when you think about bands like, I'm going to go off on a tangent. Somebody like Mr. Bungle, and bands like that. I mean, they're wild. They're just absolutely off the charts wild, but they do what they want to do, and good. That's what being a musician should be. Not about producing something that you think somebody else thinks you should produce.
Yeah. The sound advice, just play music for you. So
Yes,
write music for you. What you want to hear.
exactly.
Sound advice. Sound advice. So. Yeah, Sebastian said, Fridays on Bandcamp, the musicians get all the revenue sales.
Yeah. That's the best choice for us then.
Yeah. So that will be let's start wrapping things up. So David, any final words before we start wrapping things up?
No, El, thank you very much for having us. Thank you for the questions, and thanks to everybody who was listening there and actually asked questions. Appreciate that. Hopefully you've learned something about the band, and I learned something about the Project Metal Music Hills, so I'll be sure to keep my eye out and tune in for stuff. And maybe I can ask some questions.
Yeah. So again, David, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Absolute
No
pleasure.
problem. No, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Cool.
Guys, go check out the Red Lite District. All their links to their social medias are down in the description now. They are absolutely phenomenal band. Please go check them out. You won't be disappointed. So until next time, guys, and David, thank you so much for coming on, and everybody in the chat, thank you. So until next time, catch you all later.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye-bye.